And we are back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the live stream. This time we're here for the qualifying session for the Chinese Grand Prix. And after quite an interesting practice session, we're looking at a very interesting qualifying session. I'm once again JW97, and I'm joined again by Dennis Graff. Dennis?
Wait. I think
hello.
my mic had some issues again. Terrible.
Yeah, we didn't hear you there, but how are you doing anyway, Dennis?
Yeah, I'm still doing fine. And see on the screen, we have rain.
Yes, indeed. We've got a wet qualifying session and a very interesting one as well. We've got. Let's have a look on the weather radar. We have at least, I would say, 45% chance of rain. 40%. Oh, sorry, 35. Let me work that out properly. A 35% chance of rain, or 30. I would say 40% chance of rain in Q1, but we've got 60% for Q2 and 85% for Q3. So it should be quite interesting indeed. It looks like we're going to have monsoon conditions for Q1 at least. Whether that'll be the same for Q2 and Q3, we'll have to wait and see. But without further ado, let's get into this, and we might as well ask your predictions, Dennis. Who do you believe will be eliminated in Q1?
Before that, say that. Let me remind you, in practice I said it could rain, and it happened. Yeah. So my predictions are that both Aston Martins will be eliminated, also both Williams, and both AlphaTauris.
Okay, I'm going to go both AlphaTauris, both Williams. I'm going to go with a Haas and an Aston Martin. That's my prediction. You can also leave your predictions, guys, in the stream chat. We'll read them out once somebody comes out on the track. We might as well remind you as well, the tyres that in a normal dry session, what we're meant to be using is the hard tyres. So it'd be interested to see if the one stop is happening to be the way to go tomorrow. Should it be dry tomorrow, that is. And I should also remind you as well, of course, we do now have the spare cars ban in the OC. You would have seen that in action in practice if you saw practice a little bit earlier on with Willows, Verderi, and Q-Park having a bit of a kerfuffle. But I should point something out for qualifying with the spare cars ban. If a driver breaks down or has a crash in Q1, for example, but they end up making it through into Q2, they can't take part in Q2. Their session will be done regardless of whether they advance into the next qualifying session. So it's a little bit like in real life. So you've got to bear that one in mind, guys, as well. Even if you make it through into Q2, if you break down in Q1, that's your session done with regardless, and you'll have to start in 16th or maybe 15th, depending on Julius Anderson, of course. Because a reminder there as well, he does have a 10-place grid penalty that he has to serve for this race. So wherever Julius ends up in qualifying for today, he will drop 10 places back. And, of course, the three drivers who had the issues in practice, they'll be back on track here for qualifying. So Willows, Verderi, and Q-Pop, they'll be out on track in this session, so no worries there. And, yeah, so something to bear in mind with that one then. So, just reading some predictions there, guys. Xavier Wee has said both Williams, both Mercedes. He's gone very bold there and said both Mercs to go out in Q1 and both Haas. Fonchanek has said both AlphaTauris, both Williams, an Aston Martin, and an Alfa Romeo. So they are the predictions that we've currently got in the stream chat, and it'd be very interesting to see how this one fares. We shouldn't expect any changeable conditions in this session, so these conditions should remain the same for the entirety of Q1. Of course, a reminder, we've got 60% for Q2 and 85% for Q3, so something to bear in mind with that one. As we now look at Amar Khan, who's just making his way around the banking, and he will start his lap very, very soon. All 22 cars are now out on the track, so whether we will get any traffic issues during this session for some of the drivers, we'll have to wait and see. And, of course, something to bear in mind as well to see if there's any crashes that happen during this session, or even any mechanical failures, because, of course, the spare car ban will be in effect in this session. As now Car just comes out of the hairpin now then before he makes his way towards the final corner on the racetrack now then. So Car now then into the final corner and onto the pit straight will now go Amar Khan, as Dennis is having some issues trying to adjust his mic there, as you can hear. Apologies for that. As Amar Khan now then is going to cross the line and he's just starting his lap now then. Luckily for him, no traffic of course, because all 22 cars are now out on the racetrack as he now makes his way through turns 1. This is classed as turn 2 over here, this little right-handed kink here, before making their way down into turn 3 now then, a downhill complex, as they now make their way through into turn number 4 now then, as he will now make his way through the little kink of turn 5 before he reaches the end of sector 1. Of course, this track known for its lap 1 crashes down at this corner as well, so whether that will be an omen for this season as well, whether he crashes down at that corner on the first lap, we'll have to wait and see. 24.399 for Carr in the first sector, 24.558 for Roke in the first sector, 24.7414 for Anderson, 24.781 for Perinen in the first sector, 24.745 for Gauss. So some interesting first sectors coming the way here. I don't know whether traffic is involved or whether some mistakes have happened in the early part of the lap, because Perinin seems to not have had the best first sector, nor has Roke compared to Armar Carr, as now Carr will make his way towards the end of sector 2 now then, as he does a 55.257 in the second sector. Let's see what everybody else does. Just keep an eye on the left hand side. A 55.961 for Roke, so he's not had the best first lap there. Here's George Roke, a 56.443 for Anderson, a 56.1177 for Perinin there, 55.157 there for Galloway. So again, some very interesting times that we're seeing in the second sector at the moment, but Carr is going to be the one who will set a benchmarker time for everybody to beat, as he just now rounds the hairpin now then, the second to last corner, or in fact the third to last corner, I should say, because I'm pretty sure this bit is classed as a corner as well that Carr has just passed, as now he makes his way in towards the final corner. Let's see what the benchmarker time is going to be then for Armar Carr, as he now makes his way down the pit straight, and across the line will come Armar Carr. Across the line he will now go, and he does a 141.424. Here comes George Roke then in the Red Bull. Across the line he will now go, and he goes into second, 1.3 seconds off of Armar Carr. Of course, we should point out there is a soft and hard compound of normal wet tyre, which is what the tyres they are on, so bear that one in mind. P4 for Anderson, P3 for Perinin. Galloway crosses the line now then, goes into 4th position. Gal crosses the line, goes P5. Roman Quag now then, across the line he will go in the Alfa Romeo, goes P2 there. P8 only for Franco Lopez there. I wonder if he's on the harder compound of the normal wet tyre. In fact, that might...
Oh, Lopez was overtaken.
Was overtaken on the lap. It was by an Alfa Romeo. That Alfa Romeo being, let's have a look, it was Roman Quag that overtook him there. So Quag overtook Lopez into the hairpin there, so that compromised Lopez's lap there. Willows now then, and then McLaren across the line, he will now go, and he slots into 3rd position. P9 for his teammate De Rosa, who looked like he got a little bit held up there by Joseph Willows. Videri across the line, he will now go, slots into 10th. Either Wilson across the line, he will now she will now go, and she is going to slot where she's going to place her Haas into 12th position. Jamie Griffiths, P14 for him, as it's P7 for Franco Gama. Looked like he got held up there by Jamie Griffiths. Evan Burns slots into 6th position. Roland Motrin across the line, he will go, slots into 3rd in the Aston Martin. I wonder if he's on the softer compound of the normal wets, as Chatfield goes into 3rd on his first lap there, slots in behind Roman Quag there. Quag having a very good first lap, if that's anything to go by with Chatfield, as Fraser crosses the line and he goes into 6th place in the Haas there. Felix Sontag across the line, he will now go, slots into 18th. Laura Chung goes into 10th. P4 for Rahul Patel. Here comes David Kupak now then. Not much running in practice, of course, because he crashed out with Franco Lopez, but Kupak crosses the line and he goes into 20th position behind teammate Gal, who's up in 14th at the moment. So after the first laps, it's Carr who's at the top of the session, but I don't think we can really read too much into it at the moment, because I think some of them were on the harder compound of the normal wet tyres, Dennis, and even with Lopez, who got overtaken by Roman Quag on that lap.
Yep, indeed. I guess there will be many improvements to come, because so I was also getting used to the conditions here. But I have to say, these were some great laps from Carr and Quark, and also from, I think, everyone from the top 5. These were some good laps.
Indeed, as Carr now then makes his way into the pits, the first car on track, and the first to get a taste of the conditions, as he's now at the top of the timing sheet. So far in the drop zone, we have Videri, we have Lopez, of course, got overtaken by Quag. We also have Wilson, we have Keepot, we have Sontag, and we also have Griffiths as well, who's 5.2 seconds off. In fact, 1.6 seconds off of Sontag at this point in time. As Carr now then is back in the garage as we wait for the second runs to happen, but you've got to say, Roman Quag, Dennis, a very good first lap for him. Even though he was on the softer compound, it seemed, of the normal wets, he went quicker than Chris Chatfield, it's fair to say.
Yeah, that was a brilliant lap from Quark. I think he's doing well in these wet conditions. But yeah, hopefully he can keep up this pace. But I think for him, Q2 seems to be almost in the back, but that's very early to say.
Trin also having a very good first lap as well, currently up in fifth position, but as mentioned, he could have been running on the softer compound of the normal wets. And his teammate, Julius Anderson, in 15th at the moment. So both Aston Martins in the top 16 threshold at the moment. But now we're going to wait for the next runs to happen, as Quark is now being wheeled back into the garage. And now Amelia Wilson is coming to the pits for Haas, as the seconds tick by on the clock now then. And so let's see who's going to be the first to come out next time by. Will it be Armar Carr once again, or will somebody else get out first? Of course, normally a car usually gets left behind after the first runs as well, so do bear that one in mind as well. Who will get left behind after the first runs, we'll have to wait and see. And Wilson now in the garage, as she'll be preparing for a second lap. Whether next time by or a little bit later on, we don't know, because as I mentioned, one car usually gets left behind. So Lamborghinis are having to wait to pull into their garage. They've had to wait quite a while of both Patel and Chung, and they're now in their garage. It's taken them a while, but they are now finally in their garages. Well, got to their garages, I should say, although I think it might cause a little bit of a traffic jam, judging from where Chung has parked her Lamborghini. So, yeah, maybe a little bit of a traffic jam to bear in mind, as Patel now having to go around Chung there. So he was kind of parked in a little bit of an awkward angle there, as we have just over 10.5 minutes to go. And it is going to be a Mercedes first on track, and it is once again Armar Carr that's going to be the first man out on track for the second runs of Q number one. As his teammate we just saw in the background there has also just decided to come out of his garage then. So I wonder if the two Mercedes will lead them off on the second runs. So Carr at the moment currently at the top of the timing sheets with a 1 minute 41.424. Now most of them should have switched back up, would have now switched onto the softer compound of the normal wet tyre, so we should see some quicker lap times from drivers who kept it safe on the first lap and ran and did some running on the hard compound of the normal wet. So wait and see on that one, as Carr now then makes his way through into the hairpin there. And as now Carr now then will make his way through the long swooping left-hander now then. The Red Bulls, as Xavier Wee pointed out in the chat, only 8th and 13th at the moment. It wasn't the best first lap for the Red Bulls, and to be honest, Garma did get held up on his first lap, Dennis, so a lot of potential to come from them at the moment.
Yep, I expect a lot to come from those guys. So I expect them to be at least in the top 4.
We'll see, of course, and but I think they should, providing that they don't get held off, of course, they should be safely through into Q number 2, but who knows really what could happen in this qualifying session. We've seen in the past, of course, certain drivers who you expect to be near the front having a lot of traffic issues throughout their runs in qualifying, and who knows, that could be a thing for the Red Bulls. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, Carr will be starting his next lap very soon. It'll be interesting to see who's the one that's going to get left behind after this session, after this on this run, I should say. So there's still 5 cars left in the garage. I make that 4 now because I think Motrin has just gone out onto the racetrack. So only Patel, Fraser, and now Kupop, because Griffiths has now gone out onto the racetrack. Is there going to be any traffic for Carr as he just starts his second flying lap going through into the first corner? And the answer to that is no. Carr's going to get a clear second lap of the cherry on this occasion now then, as he makes his way through turn 2 and then into turn 3 now. Then he will now go. Just missing the curb on the apex there through into turn 3, as he'll now go through turn 4, a slightly flat out corner, although I wouldn't think he'll be flat out in wet conditions given how much wheel spin you'll get in the wet conditions, as Carr finds himself 19 thousandths down on his personal best in the first sector. And so only a little bit down off his personal best so far in that first sector. Only Patel, it seems that Patel is actually going to be the one that's going to get left behind. So everybody in the drops in the bottom 6 are out on track. So Patel is going to pass on this occasion and come back a little bit later on. I mean, he is up in 4th place, so he's not really got that much to lose, I would expect, unless we see a amount of improvement where it pushes Patel out into the drop zone. But we'll have to wait and see, of course, as Carr makes his way towards the end of sector 2 now then, and he's 9 tenths down in that second sector. So I wonder if he is on the harder compound of the normal wet tyre, or whether he's just playing it safe on this lap. I'm not sure. But anyway, Car now then making his way through the banking now then, the long swooping right under before he makes his way down the back straight now then. Let's see what Armar Car is able to do on this lap. I don't think he's going to improve it, judging from his sector 2 pace, but you never know, of course, as he will now make his way towards the hairpin, and it looks like he's gone a little bit deep there, judging from how the nose sort of dipped into the front there, sort of dipped there going into the corner. So I wonder if Carr's just made a tiny error there going through into the hairpin, as Carr now then makes his way through into the final corner and onto the pit straight now. Then he will go, and Carr comes across the line now then, and no improvement, 2 seconds off his personal best. And it looks like Lopez has also lost a heap of time in the middle sector as well now then. So I wonder if he's made a mistake in his lap as well. Oh, and they are actually the extreme wets, in fact, that Lopez is on. Lopez is on the extreme wet tyres, as you can see. So there is a belief that the track may have got a little bit worse. If that's the case, that may be bad news for Franco Lopez, who's only in the drop zone at the moment. Let's see how everybody else is doing then at the moment. As Perinin is currently holding up one of the Red Bulls. That is George Rote now. Then as Perinin now then makes his way out of the hairpin. I'm just trying to see what tyres he's on, actually. They are also the extreme wet tyres on Perinin's car. And it looks like some of them have actually gone on to the extreme wets. At this point, it's Perinin now then crosses the line, doesn't improve, nor does Roke either. Here comes Joseph Willows now then, across the line. He will go in the lap times. They're all tumbling, so yeah, it does appear like the conditions have got worse indeed. And it looks like if that is the case and they don't ease off, that is bad news for Franco Lopez, because he's in the drop zone at the moment. And we talked about in practice how he needed to get himself a Q3 appearance. It looks like it's going to be even worse for him, because it looks like if these conditions don't improve, as Sontok is still on the normal wets, in fact, he's going to get eliminated in Q1, Dennis. What a dreadful start for the defending champion.
Yeah, indeed. It's very bad for him at the moment, because I don't expect the conditions to be better at the end of Q1. So yeah, we expecting to see another shock elimination from Lopez here in China.
Indeed so, and yes, it will be wet in Q2 and Q3, George. Q2 is going to be 60% and Q3 85%. So just bear that one in mind. As Roland Mutrin now then crosses the line and he does not improve. Here comes Jamie Griffiths. Across the line he will go, and he does not improve either, as expected. And the same will go for Daniel Fraser, and he's actually going to out-qualify Wilson in this session, because Wilson is in the drop zone. But Fraser, where is he at the moment? Fraser
P7.
is P7, in fact. So he's actually going to make it through quite easily into Q2 if these conditions do not improve. And, well, same will go for David Kupak. It looks like he's going to get eliminated, whereas Gal, in fact, in the struggling AlphaTauri, is actually going to make it through into Q2 from the looks of things. So yeah, that's going to be quite interesting to see. So for the Red Bulls, at least, we talked about how it was a bad first run for them, and they might have just been saved by the weather here, Dennis.
Yep, indeed, that is the case. I think they played it safe on the first run, and yeah, look at the conditions here. Kupak 10 seconds off. Yeah, that's over.
Yeah, indeed, as we have just over 4 minutes to go in this session now then, as we should expect some more to probably just do some more extreme wet running in this session. But if this is the case, then Verderi, Lopez, Wilson, Kupak, Sontag and Griffiths are out. The two Williamses look like they're on the back row of the grid, Dennis.
Yep, that's a disaster for them, I have to say. It's a big disaster.
I say it looked like they're on the back row. Notice I pointed out the asterisk there, because of course you've got to bear in mind Julius Anderson's 10-place grid penalty. So one of them could be promoted up onto row 10. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. Depends how high Anderson can get at the moment. But we know that both Aston Martins, in fact, will in fact be through into Q2. So that's an improvement for Motrin, at least, given he started in last time out at the Australian Grand Prix.
That's a big improvement.
Oh, indeed, as the car is actually going to get some extreme wet running to conclude the session. But Quag in second place at the end of the session. I don't think he'll want to celebrate too much, because I don't think it's going to be a representation of his pace. It might be, it might not be, but a good Q1 for him, it's fair to say, even with that one lap, Dennis.
Yeah, timed the conditions out to perfection. When was fast when he needed to be fast, and yeah, that's P2 for him. And Q2 for him.
Indeed so, and luckily nobody, well at this point in time at least, anything could still happen within these remaining 3 minutes, but so far the spare car ban has not had to be used yet in qualifying. For George Roke, who's only just joined us, of course, we do have the spare car ban in action. We saw it kicking off in practice, 3 people being the first culprits of the spare car ban, that being Andre Verderi, David Kupok and Joseph Willows. But in qualifying, a little bit different. If you break down in Q1 but make it through into Q2, or you crash in Q1 but make it through into Q2, that's your session done with, regardless if you make it through into the next session. You will start at a bare minimum of 16th if that is the case. So something to bear in mind there. As Amar Khan now then makes his way through double left-hander to just do some extreme wet running, and I think a lot of the drivers, judging by how much time there is left on the clock, is going to be doing that for the remainder of Q1. So we'll just see what the lap times are like then in these conditions. And as Carr now then makes his way through the section of corners, as he will now make his way down the pit straight, not the pit straight, the back straight I should say, as he goes through the banking, again being the first car out on the racetrack. And again he'll get some extreme wet weather running in this session to conclude the end of Q number 1. And as he now makes his way down towards the hairpin to start this extreme wet run lap, because I do believe on his previous lap, in fact, he was actually on the normal wet tyres, in fact, and so I didn't really point it out until I noticed that the second car was on the extreme wet tyres. As Carr now then makes his way in towards the final corner, as he will start his extreme wet weather tyre running. And just looking at the seconds ticking down on the time on the top of your screen, I think we already know who's being eliminated, but it will just officially confirm it when it gets below the 1 minute 41, or could say 1 minute 50, judging from these conditions. As Carr is going to get held up on this lap, but it's not going to really matter. He's through into Q2 anyway, judging from the conditions. And there we have it. If it wasn't already official enough for you, it is now official. Franco Lopez is eliminated in Q number 1 then. And well, the conditions have not improved, and well, a disaster for the defending champion yet again, Dennis. Yet to see a top 10 grid start this season.
Yeah, it was P14 in Australia. Now it's even worse with P18. He will be gutted. Maybe he could be in P17 with Anderson's grid penalty. There we need to see how he does in Q2.
Indeed, as we'll have to wait and see what Carr's pace is like in Q2 as well. But obviously, it seems that obviously we were familiar with this last season, seeing a Mercedes at the top of the timing sheet. But so far this season, we've only seen it in pre-season testing, really. And well, whether this is going to be an omen for qualifier for Q3 a little bit later on for the fight for pole position, we'll have to wait and see. As we're now just got under a minute to go before the end of Q number 1. Car 6 seconds off the pace, as to be expected, given he's on extreme wet weather tyres. As he will now make his way through the banking now then, as he will now make his way down the straight. And as either Kupok or Fraser is just going to just do a wet running left, or they're just going to remain in the pit lane. We'll have to wait and see, judging by how many seconds there are left on the clock. And Carr now then approaching the hairpin. He'll complete his extreme wet weather lap, as there's actually quite a big traffic jam in front of him, and he's actually Cooper that's just going to get wet weather running. So Fraser attempting not to bother, like he would anyway, because he is through into Q number 2. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for his teammate Emilio Wilson, who's eliminated in Q1 thanks to the weather, and which is a bit of a shame really, because both Hasses showed some incredible pace during practice, but the wet weather had to intervene. Carr across the line. What's his extreme wet weather tyre running going to be like? It's 1 minute 50.533. As most of these guys only just got out just to get some wet running. As in fact, Patel, I don't know if he's just been overtaken there by Gal, or he's actually having trouble trying to get by Patel. I'm not sure, but he just gets him by easily there through the traction zones. Maybe that shows how bad in terms of pace the AlphaTauri is, but at least Gal has actually got it through into Q2, Dennis, despite the AlphaTauri struggling throughout the course of pre-season testing and even the Australian Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's a good achievement for Gal. Yeah, can be happy with that, and maybe he can push even for more in Q2.
We will see, of course, but of course one person who will have to push a little bit hard, of course, is Julius Anderson, because a reminder for anyone who's just joined us, he's got a 10-place grid penalty that he has to serve. So wherever he ends up, he'll drop 10 places back for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix. The 56 lap Chinese Grand Prix. As Willows now makes his way into the hairpin. See now clips the curb on the inside before making his way towards the final corner to finish off his extreme wet weather lap now then. Through the final turn and onto the pit straight now then will come the McLaren driver, as now Willows is now going to cross the line. And what is the time going to be then for the McLaren? Willows is through into Q2 anyway in 6th for 1:49 is what he does. Jake Galloway, the man who won here last season, he took his first ever victory here last season when he was driving for Renault, of course, now driving for Ferrari. He now makes his way into the final corner and onto the pit straight now then. He will now go as Jake Galloway is now going to cross the line. Galloway, let's see what he can do, and he goes 9 seconds down on car, so that would be a 1:50 if I were to guess. Didn't quite see the lap time there. 1:52. Excuse me, hay fever kicking in. 1:52 there for Franco Gamba. As Roman Quagg now then is going to cross the line, and 1:52 for him. Jesus Perinen now then. Where is he? He is 8th, 9th, so 9th and 10th only for the two Renaults in this session. George Roque, a 1:53 for him, a 1:54 for Lopez. Is that everybody done with? I'm not sure. Yes, that is everybody done. We've got the qualifying over, and there you have it then. So we finally got through Q1 then. Armar car top, Roman Quagg second and Chris Chatfield third. And a reminder, Videri, Lopez, the big shock there, Wilson, Q-Puck, Sontag and Griffiths are the 6 drivers eliminated. So not really much to go from Q1, Dennis, but of course, Lopez eliminated in Q1. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, I guess nobody. If you would write a headline for that, you would say, shocking elimination for Lopez again.
Yeah, indeed, and once again, a lot of work to do to him. Remember, of course, last season as well, he did get eliminated in Q2 that season as well, so he's used to making comebacks through the field here in China, so whether that will be the same thing tomorrow, we will have to wait and see. Well, for the meantime, Yuri will sort out what he needs to sort out for Q number 2. Luckily, he doesn't need to do anything with the spare car ban, because nobody broke down or crashed in that session, so he doesn't need to sort anything out for that. But for the meantime, guys, whilst we wait for Q2 to get underway, you can let us know your prediction on who you believe will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying. And in the meantime, I'm just going to get the tweet sorted out for Twitter, so apologies if I go a little bit silent. But yeah, judging from the fact that we've had a shock in this session, Dennis, do you think we could get more shocks in Q2?
I think we could actually get a few more shocks because of the rain. I think if the conditions aren't getting worse in Q2 from the start, so I mean, if the cars have done that one lap and then the conditions are getting worse, if that doesn't happen, or if that does happen, and I think, for example, a Red Bull is the bottom 6. Hopefully, I won't jinx that. But then if it rains even more, then that would be a massive shock again. So I think everyone can make it into Q3, not just the top cars.
Indeed, and if that is the case, we see that in Q2. It will be very, very interesting indeed. Of course, let's not forget, we do have 60% chance of rain for Q2, so there could be a chance it could be intermediate conditions with the 60% chance of rain, but we will wait and see, of course. But yeah, either way, dry, you never know with Grand Prix 4 when it comes to percentages, but we will see, of course, when we get there, of course, when Yuri sorts out what he needs to sort out. And, well, could the spare car ban be in effect in Q2? That could be very interesting indeed. We've already seen it in effect in practice. We didn't see it in Q1, but could it be a thing in Q2? We'll have to wait and see. And yeah, that's that really. And obviously this qualifying section looking to be maybe a mixed up grid. We'll have to wait and see. And whatever that means for a mixed up grid, because to be honest with you, looking at what we saw in Australia and how close everybody was, that could be anything. But as We wait now then for the second part of qualifying to get underway. And again, guys, leave us your prediction on who you believe will be eliminated in Q2. Could be anybody, really. We'll have to wait and see. Unless you're waiting for what the weather forecast is going to look like before you make your predictions, then I don't blame you, of course. And, of course, I will ask Dennis once we get onto the loading screen what his predictions will be. But for the meantime, we'll just hold on to them at this point in time. Just coming up to the 5:30 mark as we now have the screen ready to go for Q2. And once again, it is extreme conditions for Q number 2, and there is water on the track, and could it get heavier? I don't know. Okay, so it's drier than what it was in Q1, so there could be a chance it could be changeable again. So, without further yes. So, without further ado, let's get into Q number 2. So, who do you believe will be eliminated in Q number 2 then, Dennis?
I say Gal, both Aston Martins, Fraser, Quark, and I say Renault.
Okay, I'm going to say Quark, both Aston Martins. I'm going to go bold and say a Red Bull. I'm going to go bold there. I'm also going to go bold and say a Renault as well. And I'm going to say a Lamborghini is the 6th one. So, they are my predictions. As you can see, normal wet tyres for all the drivers, so no intermediate tyres at this point. So, we could have a case of some people being on the... in fact, I say that because Gal is actually on the extreme wet tyres, in fact. So, Gal is on extreme wet, so he's the only one that's going to try out those... Oh, it was Gamba, sorry, I thought it said Gal there. Do you remember Franco Galba at one point? I think it was in 2019.
Backfire badly.
In fact, as you can see, look in the pit lane. Look in the pit lane, in fact. There is a little bit of dry patches in the pit lane. So, let's see what it's like out on track, for starters. And, will be interesting. As in fact, Gal is on the extreme wet, so I was correct there, Yuri. So, very interesting there, what AlphaTauri... Gamba is too as well. So, 2 people are on the extreme wet tyres. So, be interested to see if Gamba and Gal have got this one correct, really. But it doesn't look like it's heavy enough for the extreme wet tyres at the moment. In fact, there's actually no rain on the screen. But Patel is the first one out on track. So, whilst they get prepared for their first laps of Q2, let me have a look at your predictions in the chat then. So, Xavier Wee has said Car, Fraser, Gal, Quag, and both Astons. He's gone bold there and said Car in that one. Fonchenica said Gal, Fraser, Quag, both Aston Martins, and a Lambo. Jake Tilsley has said both Astons, a Haas, both Renaults, a Red Bull, and what, Jake? You haven't said anything else after that. And well, a Haas. That would be Daniel
anyway,
because he's the only Haas that's available in this session. Lee Bailey has said Mercedes, both Red Bulls, both AlphaTauris, and what other car, Bailey? Because 6 cars get eliminated in this session. It's not 5, it's 6, because we have 22 cars on this grid. And yes, I'm also glad as well that the spare car system works as well, Flo. It's been very useful in practice. And as you can see, look on the straight, it is quite dry in Sector 3, so quite mixed, it's fair to say, Dennis.
Yeah, that's of course will be very exciting, but I think the guys on...
We'll see now then, as Patel now then starts his first flying lap then of Q number 2 in the Lamborghini. No traffic expected because all 16 cars are now out on the racetrack. As Patel now then makes his way through the first corner now then, before he makes his way through into turn number 2. And then into turn 3 he will now go now then, we'll go Rahul Patel. As now he will make his way through turn 4 very, very soon. Obviously, this is a wetter part of the track, but as we saw with Sector 3, it is pretty dry down at Sector 3 at the moment. I would argue these should be intermediate conditions for all of these drivers, but clearly not. The drivers feel like it's normal wet conditions, or in some cases, extreme wet. It's 25.039 for Patel in the first sector. Let's see what everybody else's first sector is going to be like. A 25.732 for Mikkel Tal, 24.936 for Galloway, 25.9 8.98 for Willows. I don't know if Galloway's in the way of him on that lap there. Then as Patel now then makes his way through the right-hander now then. 25.1 for Perinin in the first sector. A few 25.7s in the first sector as well for the likes of Gal and De Rosa. As now Patel will make his way towards the end of Sector 2 now then. Let's see what this is going to be. It is a 56.930 for the Indian driver as he will now make his way towards Sector 3. Now, is this part of the track still dry like we saw on their warm-up laps? Let's see.
I don't think so.
Comes out of the banking. Let's see on the straight. That's where it dried up. And it looks like it's actually wetting up actually now in Sector 3 because it's still spray. So the conditions changing all the time, it seems. As Patel now then will make his way towards the hairpin now then. And of course, I should point out as well, looking at Gal's pace in the first sector compared to De Rosa, he's actually not had a bad first sector considering that he's on the extreme wet tyres. We'll have to wait and see what that's like with Gamba. Let's see what Patel is like. He's going to be the one that's going to set a benchmark time for everybody to beat as the Lamborghini driver makes his way down the pit straight and across the line. He will now go, and it is a 143.214 for Rahul Patel. Of course, some of the normal wet runners will be on softs, soft normal wets, and others on hard normal wets. So let's see how that one plays out. Willow's way down on Patel at the moment across the line. He will now go. We noticed that he was down by quite a lot, and he's 3.5 seconds off. Gal across the line, goes into fourth. Second place for Galloway. Looked like he got held up for Rinnan. Goes into second place. Chris Chatfield across the line. He will go in the Ferrari. And across the line will go the Ferrari driver. Goes into third as it is P4 for De Rosa. P2 now for Roman Quark. So once again showing some impressive pace in qualifying is Roman Quark. Here comes Laura Chung, the home favourite in the Lamborghini. And looking at the lap time, she might be on the harder compound of the normal wets. As Laura Chung now then comes down the pit straight and across the line she will now go. And it looks like she's way off the pace. In fact, she might have made a mistake in fact in that last sector because she was 7/10 down in the middle sector, but finds herself
she was in the gravel.
She was actually on a decent excuse me, she was actually on a decent lap, but then she made a mistake going through into the bank in there. Could that be costly given the conditions are looking to be changeable at the moment, Dennis?
Yep, I think that was the nail in the coffin because I think the conditions will get even worse by now. So yeah, I think that's not very good for Chang. Fraser goes P5.
Car now then across the line. He will now go in the Mercedes. The guy who topped the session in Q1 goes fifth at this time by. Rope across the line goes fifth. Here comes Franco Gamba, who's on the extreme wet tyres. Let's not forget. Across the line, he will go the championship leader. Where is he going to place himself? And he goes ninth position. A bit on the edge there. Here comes Evan Byrne in the Renault. Across the line he will go, and he slots into 10th, also on the edge. Roland Mutrin, across the line he will go, and he slots into 13th position. Julius Hansen, of course, has that 10th place grid penalty. Across the line he will now go, and he goes into 15th position. At the moment he'll be starting in last with his grid penalty. But at the moment, Patel, who was on pole last time in Australia, at the top of the timing sheets. But will we get any more improvements? That is going to be the question. In the case of Galloway and Willows, they'll be hoping that is the case. And of course for Chung as well, Dennis.
Yeah.
That's not good news
I don't
already
think
there.
they will improve the conditions. Too bad.
Yeah, indeed. I don't know if anybody can hear you because it doesn't make it clear that if people can hear him or not. So, right. Anyway, he's saying that the conditions appear to have gotten worse because people are already losing time, it seems, in the middle sector. So, that's that really, as Patel now comes into the pit. So if that's the case, that's bad news for Galloway, Willows and Chong, especially for Chong, who made that costly mistake, Dennis.
Yep, that was very bad from her, the mistake. So, yeah, she was kicking herself because of that. Because I think we won't see any faster times.
Yes, indeed. But Gal, it'll be good news for him because he'll be starting up in 14th and given the pace of the AlphaTauri. Not too bad.
Yeah, that's quite good for him, I guess.
As so far then, our top 10 will look like this then. Patel, Quark, Perinin, Chatfield, Roke, Carr, Fraser, DeRosa, Gamba and Byrne. That will be the top 10 at the moment. But either way, just looking at it, Quag, once again, doing very well in the way. He seems to love these conditions in the Alfa Romeo, Dennis.
Yeah, that is very impressive pace from him. Again in P2. And yeah, that is a very great showing from him. I think, as I said, he loved these conditions. Or he's loving these conditions. Therefore,
And
him it's looking very, very good.
you could tell now that the conditions have got worse because look at the tyres that Patelli's now on in the garage. He's on the extreme wet tyres. So,
I think that's it.
yeah, I think that might be a signal that the conditions have gotten worse, just like they did in Q number 1. And you've got to bear in mind as well, in Q3, we've got an 85% chance of rain. So, who knows? It could be a one-lap thing again in that session. We'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. But for now, I think the guys who didn't get an extreme wet weather running, they'll get a chance on this occasion. But for the bottom 6, it's bad news, especially for Willows, who was looking strong in practice, Dennis. He's going to have it all to do again. So once again, he's out of place on the grid.
That's I think more likely today because of the conditions. As look at the start finish rate, it's pouring down with rain here.
Yeah, indeed, and it's not looking particularly good for anybody who wants to improve. It looks like that's out of the question. Hayes Perinin, he looks like he's through up in P3 at the moment. Of course, Hayes has got his first ever podium last time out in Australia and only his first ever race, pretty much doing what Lewis Hamilton and Kevin Magnussen and even Jacques Villeneuve did in real life by getting a podium in his first ever race, in their first ever race. So, and in fact, in the same position, he actually finished in the same position as what K-Mag and Jacques Villeneuve finished in their debuts as well. So, he's kind of got that one to rest on. Who knows, really? Could we see Perinin potentially, judging from the pace of this Renault, maybe get his first ever victory this season as well in his rookie season? That'll be something. Like we saw with Jake Galloway last season as well. Must be a thing when you drive for Renault, really, that if you make your debut with a team, you must have some good luck or something. I don't know. But anyway, as Perinin now then just makes his way through the right-hander now then, and he'll be doing an extreme wet weather on in, and I'm pretty sure all 16 cars will be doing that as well. As Perinin now then uses a lot of the curb on the outside there then, as Perinin now then will approach the left and the right-hander, which will take him onto the banking. You can just tell how much he's tippy-toeing around. You can tell that the conditions have changed so much today, and it's because they're going very slowly now around the corners.
Yeah, if you compare to the first hot lap on the beginning of Q2, it was almost dry, but now it's soaking.
Yeah, and
it's only a question how are they off.
And yeah, we'll obviously see, of course, how much the conditions have impacted, really. And I think the best comparison you'd have to say is Rahul Patel, because he's at the top of the time machines, to see how much the lap times have fell away judging from the extreme wet conditions. And of course, to bear in mind as well, Dennis, 85% chance in Q3, maybe a chance we could see this sort of thing like we saw in Q1 and Q2 happening again. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Perinin will start his extreme wet weather tyre run, and this will probably be his final flying lap, judging by how much time there is left. And if it's anything to go by with these conditions, it might take him a bit of a while to get back around the track both times. But we will see. As Perinin now then just goes around turn 3 and then into turn 4 he will go. And we're going to see how much his time is like compared to Patel in the first sector with these extreme wet weather tyres. And he is 1.7 seconds off in the first sector and 1.6 seconds off his personal best in that middle sector. So, yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see what the rest of the lap looks like, because I think you'll lose more of the time in the middle sector, in fact, judging by it's a little bit more of a twiddly section, as I like to say. But now Perinin will make his way towards the double left-hander on the racetrack now then, flicking it in through the double left-hander, as he'll now make his way towards the end of Sector 2. As let's see what the lap time is like. Anyway, it is 4.777 seconds off of Patel and 4.5 seconds off his personal best in the middle sector. So I think it's safe to say, Dennis, Byrne and Garber probably thankful that the weather has increased, because they were on the edge there.
Yep, they are very lucky, especially Gamba, because before that these conditions wouldn't be deteriorating so quick. Therefore, it's very lucky that he's in the top 10 with the extreme wets at the beginning.
Yep, indeed. As Perinen now then will make his way towards the final corner. And let's see what his lap time is like then in these conditions. We saw what around the 1 minute 50s in Q1, so let's see if that's the same moment in this session. And it looks like it will be, as Perinen is now going to cross the line at 152.663. Here comes Miklos Gal, who'll be starting in 14th position. Goes around the hairpin, so we can at least confirm now that, judging from these conditions, because it doesn't look like it's going to improve, that Julius Anderson, as we expected in practice, Dennis, is going to be starting in last position. So at least the Williamses aren't going to occupy the entirety of the back row, and it will gain Lopez at least one more position. But yeah, we kind of predicted it anyway in practice, didn't we, Dennis?
Yeah. Don't have much more to say about that, to be honest.
Yeah, as now look at Joseph Willows now then, and unfortunately for him, he's going to have it all to do from 12th on the grid for tomorrow's Grand Prix, and especially given the reputation that one particular corner has around here in Shanghai, it's probably not the best position to start with, if we're being totally honest, Dennis.
Yep, that is true. Hopefully he will avoid chaos in that particular corner tomorrow, like everyone. But I fear there will be crash tomorrow.
We'll see though, but who knows really. Chung crosses the line, and she will be kicking herself with that mistake. She'll be starting in, well, it will be 50th because of Anderson's 10-place grid penalty, but still on row number 8 of the grid. A lot of work to do for her tomorrow. But we saw in Melbourne she was able to carve her way through the field, so maybe the same thing could happen here at a home race. And of course, we know that she's one of the best overtakers in the top class, so maybe that will come into an effect tomorrow as well. As Byrne, obviously counting his lucky stars, really, that he'll be making it through to Q3, having just barely scraped through into 10th position. Here comes Julius Anderson, of course, will start in last tomorrow, as we know now, because he's in 15th position and will drop 10 places back. Anderson crosses the line, and he does a 1 minute 54.838 there then. And everybody, I think, is coming into the pits this lap. And yep, and that will be this session done with, unless somebody is going to go out and do a mileage run, but we'll have to wait and see, of course, as Perinen now pulls back into the garage, as he'll be waiting for Q3 to commence, especially with 85% chance of rain in that session. So that'll be that really, as we have just over a minute left. Whether we'll see anybody do a mileage run before the session comes to a close, we will see, but we've now got under a minute left, so we can confirm now, if it wasn't already official, it is now, that Galloway, Willows, Motrin, Gao, Anderson and Chong have all been eliminated in Q2, leaving just Rahul Patel, Roman Quarg, surprise surprise, Jesus Perinen, Chris Chatfield, George Rowe, Amar Carr, Daniel Fraser, Kirishima DeRosa, Franco Gamba and Evan Byrne to fight it out for pole position for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix. And Patel topping Q2. Who knows, really? Could he make it 2 pole positions in a row? Who knows, really? And or will somebody else actually get a pole position this time by? Could even the likes of even Jesus Perinen, Chris Chatfield, maybe even Daniel Fraser as a shot? But in fact, we might as well talk about Fraser. In fact, I've only just noticed, apart from Quark having a surprise showing Q3, Fraser getting the Haas through into Q3 as well, Dennis. A very, very good effort from him.
Yeah, that's very, very good effort from him. We talked in practice about that there has improved overall, but it's a great performance from Daniel Fraser. And yeah, let's see what he can do in Q3.
Indeed, and it will be fascinating to see. The checkered flag is now out, and a reminder to top 3, Patel, Quarg and Perinen, and a reminder, Galloway, Willows, Motrin, Gao, Anderson and Chong have been eliminated. Anderson, of course, will start in last position due to the fact that he has a 10-place grid penalty. So, we're just going to get things sorted out for Q number 3, but in the meantime, I'm going to get the tweet sorted out for Twitter. But in the meantime, guys, whilst we are getting things sorted, let us know your predictions on who you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix. And whilst you're at it as well, you can let us know your prediction on what you believe the rest of the top 10 will look like if you want to as well. But for the meantime, I'm going to post this on Twitter, so apologies if I go a little bit silent. Yeah, I think you guys understand the drill. So bear with, guys. and you'll hear my voice again quite soon. But yeah, I think Quarg and Fraser, I think probably the most happiest people at the moment. It's fair to say, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. They have done a great job. It's basically that.
Just bear with, guys, as I just wrote this tweet, so apologies if I do go a little bit silent, but I'll be back with you in just a little bit. Excuse me. And there we go. It's my keyboard. Anyway, there we go. The tweet is now up, and there you go. So, again, guys, if you can hear a fan in the background, I apologise. I am in a very warm room at the moment, and I need a fan in here because otherwise I will melt in this summer heat that we've got going on in the UK. So, apologies if you hear some kind of like fan noise in my microphone. I need something to.
Wait, Joe, how many degrees are at your place?
Right now, it's currently 26 degrees according to my weather radar on my laptop. So I think it might have been a little bit warmer a little bit earlier on because it is now coming up to 6 o'clock. The weather should be a little bit more cooler at this point. But yeah, that's that. As hello, Jesus, who's just joined us in the stream chat, and so you're through into Q3, so you've got no worries there, Jesus. So that's that. As we wait for Q3 to get underway. And again, the spare car ban has not come into an effect so far in this qualifying session. Every car has kind of behaved themselves, and that includes Laura Chung, even though she made that mistake in Q2. She did keep it out of the wall, so at least no damage or break or any issues with the cars during this session. So that's that. Of course, let's not forget, we've got 85% chance of rain for Q number 3, so whether we will have the same thing that we saw in Q1 and Q2 in that the first lap has got to count, we'll have to wait and see. Do you think it could be, Dennis?
I'm not sure, but you know, I would like to see the reverse of it. If it more rain at the beginning and dries up, that would be very exciting.
Yeah, indeed, and hopefully we don't get any. Hopefully, it doesn't just come down to the one lap. Hopefully, we get a lot of laps in, and hopefully, a good end to this qualifying session. Which, to be honest with you, even though we've got so far looking like a mixed grid, it hasn't really been the best qualifying session at the moment because it's all been down to one lap in the previous two sessions. So hopefully, that isn't the case in Q3, but you never know. And so we're just waiting for the moment, guys. So just bear with. And then we'll get to Q number 3 underway. As mentioned, guys, let us know your prediction on who you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix. And whilst you're at it, let us know your top 10, who you believe the rest of the top 10 is going to look like for the remainder of the grid. And we will wait and see, of course, what Q3 has to offer for us for the Chinese Grand Prix here at Shanghai. And so, of course, obviously, I do respect the feedback that you've given me so far about the new graphics I've been using to post session times and the championship standings for the top class, and I will continue to do those. So expect them after the qualifying session comes to a close. But do give me time because it does take a bit of it does take some time for me to get it all done on Photoshop. It's not a quick process, so do bear with on that one. But yeah. And so far we've had some pretty good surprises, but so far from the first two sessions, Quarg has always ended up in second place. If it's anything to go by, then it only ends up being one lap. Could we see Quad potentially qualify quite highly for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix?
Well, I think so, yes. That would also be a great surprise overall. It would be great for him, but also remember back in 2014, it's a track where he got his first top class win.
Yes, indeed it is. You are definitely correct. In fact, 2014 is the only time he ever won top class races. He won at China, he won the following race in Spain, and then he won at the Japanese Grand Prix as well. So obviously he has got some good memories around here at the Chinese Grand Prix. As we now have the stream finally up on our screen, and well, it looks like it's going to get a little bit. The rain is going to get a little bit lighter, judging from those conditions, Dennis, because it seems that there's a little chunk there, just at the top of the bar on the top there. But hopefully, it's not going to come down to one lap this time. But without further
hopefully
ado,
not.
Let's get to the final part of qualifying. And I'm going to ask you, Dennis, that's probably going to be a tough answer for you. Who do you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix?
Oh, that's a tough question. Right. Currently, I have no idea. But I think will be Franco Gamba
Gonna go
take pole.
Gonna go with the championship leader, are you? I'm gonna go with who am I gonna go with? I'm gonna go with Jesus Perinen, I think. I think I'm gonna go with a Renault to take pole position. I think Jesus might do the job. But as you can see, Patel is on the extreme wet tyres. I'm not sure if there was a variant in terms of tyres. But you can see that Patel is on the extreme wets, as you can see from the garage perspective. And is anybody else going on the extremes, or is anybody else going on the normal wet tyres? Extremes are going on for Fraser's car. We can see that. So we know he's on the extremes. And I think, yeah, everybody is on the extreme wet tyres, except for, unless that's the player car. That's the player car, so ignore that. That's irrelevant. So as the first car on track is Evan Byrne on the extreme wets in the Renault now then. Now, of course, let's not forget, Dennis, he came close to getting pole last time out in Australia. Do you think he could do that this time by, or do you think he'll miss out again?
According to my prediction, I think sadly he will lose out again. But yeah, my predictions aren't right all the time, which is good.
Okay, so here is...
He could make it.
Yes, indeed. We've got quite a lot of predictions, in fact, in the stream chat. Ra has said Jesus for pole position. Jesus has said Ra for pole. Clearly loving each other too much, Ra and Jesus, judging from their time in GP2. Xavier has gone for Chatfield for pole position. Jake Tilsley has gone for Ra for pole. From Chanak Kirshani has gone for Rote for pole position. And Lee Bailey has gone for Patel to get another pole position. So 6 different positions there, but either way, it's going to be very, very fascinating to see. Hopefully, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed, it doesn't come down to one lap. I beg to the heavens that it doesn't get worse and it doesn't come down to just one lap once again. Just one car left to come out onto the racetrack, and now all 10 cars are now out on the racetrack, and we're going to see who is going to get the second pole position of 2021 here at the Chinese Grand Prix. Obviously, it's a little bit strange not having Bahrain either as the second race or even the third race, because of course that's happening later on in the season as round 19, and it'll be very weird when we get there, of course, a little bit later on. Who knows, a championship could be on the line at that Bahrain Grand Prix later on in the season. That will be something to keep an eye on that occasion. But anyway, as Evan Byrne now then is preparing to start his first flying lap of Q number 3, as he now makes his way down towards the hairpin now then, as he clips the curb on the inside, as he will now make his way in towards the final turn, this 90-degree left-hander, as he will now start his next flying lap. Through the final turn and onto the pit straight then will go Evan Byrne, as he's going to start his lap now then, coming down the pit straight. Keep an eye for where the line is. Across the line now then, Byrne starts his first flying lap as he makes his way through the first 2 turns on the racetrack. A quite awkward first few turns, it's fair to say, because it's kind of connected together, but according to the track map, these are classed as 2 separate turns for some odd reason. Into turn number 3 now then goes Evan Byrne, and the same can be said for turn 4 as well, because these 2 corners are sort of connected to each other as well, as You saw that Byrne just missed the curb on the exit there. Let's see what his first sector time is like on the extreme wet. And it is a 27.078 in the first sector. We're seeing the times getting slower each time we've seen a lap time being done on each session. A 27.296 for Roman Quagg in the first sector. 26.932 for championship leader Franco Gama. Looked like Byrne had a little bit of a wiggle going through into the entrance of turn 7 there. 26.932 for Fraser. Very strong first sector for him there. 26.528 for Chatfield. Very strong for him as well in that first sector. As Byrne now just comes out of the double left-hander. He'll be approaching the end of sector 2 very, very soon, as the Irishman now then approaches the end of sector 2, as he does a 1 minute 2.614 in the second sector, as he gets the car around the swooping section of corners now then, as he now makes his way through into the banking. A 1 minute 2.236 for Garma in the second sector. 1 minute 2.923 for Quagg. 1 minute 2.357 for Daniel Fraser. He's looking again very strong at the moment. A 1 minute 1.407. Chatfield absolutely flying out on the racetrack. Keep an eye on Chris Chatfield in the Ferrari. Could he try and get his first ever pole position? As now Byrne makes his way through into the hairpin now then, as he's about to finish off his first flying lap of Q number 3 now then. As he now approaches the final turn now then, to the final corner and onto the pit straight now then will go Evan Byrne in the Renault down the pit straight. And what is the benchmarker time going to be for the Irish veteran? Byrne across the line, and it is a 1 minute 54.208. Roman Quagg in the Alfa Romeo crosses the line, slots into second. He actually found some time on Byrne in the last sector there. Garma across the line, he will go. He was going quicker than Byrne, and he goes quicker by 5/10 of a second. Daniel Fraser, keep an eye on him across the line, and he goes into second, 1/10 off Franco Garbage. Chris Chatfield, another man to keep an eye on. He was been flying on this lap. Chatfield across the line, and he goes quickest by 1.2 seconds. That's a very quick lap for Chris Chatfield. Here comes George Roke in the Red Bull as he now makes his way through into the final corner now then. Down the pit straight will go the 5-time race winner, George Roke, in his second race back as a Red Bull Racing driver. Roke across the line, he will go. Where will he go in comparison to Franco Gamba? And he goes into 4th position. Patel across the line, and he goes second, gets onto the front row. DeRose across the line, he now slots to second, gets in front of Rahul Patel. What about Amar Khan? What can he do? Last season's runner-up comes down the pit straight now then in the Mercedes, as Amar Khan is going to cross the line. And what is the lap time going to be for the Mercedes driver? And he slots into 4th position. One more car left, and that's Jesus Perinen. Across the line he will go in the Renault, and Perinen is going to cross the line, and it's only good enough for 10th. Not a good first lap for Jesus Perinen, but what a lap for Chris Chatfield, Dennis.
Yeah, that's a stunning lap from Chatfield. He just seemed to be absolutely brilliant in these conditions.
And it looks like
it's amazing.
And it looks like, judging from the middle sector from Evan Byrne, it looks like we're going to get a second flying lap. So let's hope that it doesn't just end on the one lap and we get some more running for the remainder of this qualifying session, because it looks like it's going to stay extreme for the remainder of this session. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope these aren't the only laps like we saw in Q1 and Q2. Let's hope we get an exciting end to this qualifying session. Chatfield top with DeRosa in second, Patel third, Carr fourth, Garma in fifth, Fraser in sixth, doing a very good job in that Haas at the moment, followed by Roke in seventh, Byrne in eighth, Quagg in ninth, and Perinen in 10th. Only 8th and 10th at the moment for the two Renaults, clearly struggling at the moment in these conditions, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. That's, I think, not their conditions. I think they prefer dry running or even intermediate wet running. Yeah, I think these conditions are not suiting their car very well.
Yeah, indeed. And Yuri's just pointed out as well in our little Discord chat that everybody seems to be going quicker on their in-laps. So that could be an omen of things to come for the remainder of this session. So we could expect a very exciting end to this qualifying session. So as everybody, the remaining 10 cars who are obviously competing for pole position have now come back into the pits, and we wait for their second flying lap to happen in this session. So that's that really.
I think also there's only going to be one more lap here because of the time.
You can still hear me, can't you? Because I don't know if I just accidentally switched my microphone setting there.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, good. I thought for a minute there I accidentally changed my microphone setting. But anyway, as because I was just busy talking to someone. But anyway, it should be very interesting to see what the second flying lap is going to look like. We did expect lap times to be a little bit quicker, and as we wait to see what who's going to be the first to come out this time by. Of course, last time by it was Evan Byrne. Is he going to be the first to come out again this time by, or will somebody else beat him to the punch to go out on track? As Patel has only just been able to get his car back in the garage there. Of course, ignore Lopez. He got eliminated in Q1, and Fraser not wasting any time. He's going out on track. His mechanics are getting ready. And is he going to be first on track, or is somebody going to beat him to the punch? Let's see. We've just under 7 minutes left on the clock. These could be the final flying laps, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. And Fraser is actually going to be first on track, followed by Evan Byrne, and followed by, that is Franco Gamba. It's got a Honda sticker on the rear wing, so that is Franco Gamba. As Daniel Fraser now then comes out onto the racetrack in the Deutsche Post SF1 team car, and currently in 6th. So far, could he get a little bit higher, Dennis? Who knows, really? If anything, judging by what you just said, he could get himself a little bit higher.
Yeah, maybe everyone could get higher on the grid. Let's see who will get these conditions to the perfection.
Yep, as just keep an eye on the left-hand side. Still 6 more cars to come out in track, including the man that's currently on provisional pole, which is Chris Chatfield. De Rosa has now just come out on track, as has Roman Quarg. As Fraser now then just making his way around turns 5 and... hang on, let me get that right. I think that's incorrect. It's turns 7 and 8 he's just going around now then, as he'll now make his way towards the double left-hander. Perinen, Kart and Patel are still in the garages at the moment. They're just biding their time at this point and just waiting for their moment to go out. Byrne will be hoping he doesn't catch up to Fraser and get held up, as he's currently in 8th position, so we'll have to wait and see how that one is going to prevail as they now make their way through the banking. And just 2 more cars now then left in the garages, as Patel has now just come out onto the track, I believe. Kart and Perinen left to go out. Perinen has now just gone out, so Carl will be the last to come out onto the track, and Fraser will be hoping it's before he gets back onto the pit straight. And there we go. So Fraser is not going to get held up on his second flying lap, and potentially final, depending on how long it takes for him to get back around in these conditions. As Fraser now then just comes around the hairpin, as he'll be starting his second flying lap very, very soon now then, as will the cars behind him as well of Byrne and Gamba. Through the final turn then goes Daniel Fraser. Let's see if there is still room for improvement, or whether the conditions have gotten worse when the drivers have been in the garage. Hopefully people can better their lap times, as Yuri pointed out in our little chat here in the commentary box, but we'll have to wait and see. Fraser's just started his lap as he goes around the first 2 corners now then. Byrne has mentioned hoping he doesn't get held up by Fraser, because it's safe to say that the Haas is probably a slower car compared to the Renault. As Fraser now then just goes around turn 4 and probably missing the curb on the outside like most people have done. Let's see what his first sector is going to be like, and he's 2 tenths down on his personal best, as Byrne is actually 2 thousandths down on Chatfield, but he's coming up now to the back of Fraser, and that might not be good news for the Irishman, because it looked like he was going to be on a very good lap there, as he now makes his way through turn 7 and turn 8 now then. Excuse me, as I'm continuing to lose my voice. As now then comes towards the double left-hander. How much time is Byrne being impacted by being stuck behind Daniel Fraser? We'll have to wait and see. As Fraser now then comes towards the end of sector 2 now then, as Byrne is actually going to try and find a way through into the left-hander there and gets it done quite easily. In fact, he still gained time. He actually still gained time in that middle sector. In fact, he didn't lose too much, so could he in fact maybe gain some more time?
3,000.
Could he maybe gain more time in this last sector now that he's free of Daniel Fraser? Keep an eye on Evan Byrne on this lap now.
He definitely will.
As he now comes down the straight now then, with the Renault power in the back of the car.
Improve.
But by how much? That's what we've got to find out. Could he actually maybe dethrone Chatfield to the top of that timing sheet? As as we now come towards the final corner. I think these will be the final laps, looking at the lap times. But anyway, Byrne, round the final corner, and across the line, he will now go down the pit straight. The Irishman, can he get to the top of the timing sheets? Evan Byrne, across the line, he will now go, and yes, he does, by 87 thousandths of a second. But let's wait a moment. Garber goes into third. Fraser obviously didn't improve. Roke is not improving either at the moment, so he's actually 1/10 down on his personal best in the middle sector. Roke not looking like he's on a good lap at this point in time. Roke now then comes towards the final corner. Can he find some time in the last sector perhaps to try and improve on his lap? Roke down the pit straight, and across the line will go the British driver. Roke across the line, he goes in the Red Bull, doesn't improve, stays in 8th. De Rosa also not on an improvement either. He crosses the line and he stays in 4th position. Quagg is on improvement. Cross line he will go, and he goes into 8th position, gets in front of Roke. Chatfield is not on an improvement. He's not up on his personal best, so it looks like he's not going to get that pole back off of Evan Byrne. Could be a front row start for him. We'll have to wait and see. Chris Chatfield across the line he will go. He doesn't improve and he stays in 2nd place. Patel is also not up on his personal best. He's currently in 5th. He's 1/10 down on his personal best in the middle sector now then, as he makes his way towards the final turn. Down the pit straight now, then we'll go Rahul Patel. Can he find some time perhaps in the last sector? Currently in 5th position is the man who took pole at the Australian Grand Prix. Patel across the line, he does not improve. Perinin is on improvement. But he's not up on his teammate Byrne. Could he potentially make it a Renault lockout across the line? And he only goes 4th with that lap. Amar Khan is up on his personal best, and he's up on his personal best in the middle sector, but not up on Byrne. Across the line, we'll go Amar Khan, and he goes into 4th position with that lap then. Anybody else on a lap before we can confirm anything?
No.
The answer to that is no. So, for the first time since, I want to say 2012, if I'm not mistaken, for the first time since the 2012, let me have a double check.
Check.
Before Evan corrects me in the bloody chat. The first time since the 2011 it was, the 2011 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Evan Byrne is on pole position for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix. He missed out, excuse me, he missed out last time out in Australia, but this time nobody has stopped in this time, and at long last Evan Byrne is back on pole position. What a lap for Evan Byrne on that final lap. Even with the hold up for Daniel Fraser, it didn't stop him in the end. Chris Chatfield is going to be on the front row tomorrow alongside him. A good qualifying effort for him. So in a moment, once the countdown reaches 0, we are going to take a look at the pole lap set by Evan Byrne, and well, I'm looking forward to see how this one is going to go. And dog commentator comes at the last minute. So I think you've missed the dog commentator for 3 weeks. He's now back. And 30 seconds left. Obviously, Evan Byrne on pole position for the first time in 11 seasons. 10 seasons. The 2011 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was the last time he was on pole position. And that was also in the wet conditions as well. So, bit of an omen there. As a bit of a coincidence there. A bit of trivia there for you, I should say. But, yeah. That is qualifying done with. In a moment, we're going to see the pole lap from Evan Byrne, and it will show us how he got his first pole in 10 seasons. So just waiting for the timer to tick down to 3, 2, and 1, and that is 0 and 0, and the checkered flag is out. And now we're going to take a look at Byrne's pole lap. So here we go, and I hope you enjoy it.
Great lap. Only sector you're not fastest in at the moment is the last sector by a couple of hundredths. We can't afford to slow down too much.
And that is how Evan Byrne got pole position for tomorrow's Chinese Grand Prix. His first pole since the 2011 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And if I'm not mistaken, it's Renault's first pole since, I want to say 2006, 7, 8? Might have been after that. Evan will probably correct me on that. But it is the Enstone-based team's first pole since the 2013 Korean Grand Prix with Will Neller. So that's something to tick off the list right there. And a very brilliant lap indeed, even with Daniel Fraser, ironically, being the one that was holding him up, especially with all the collisions they were having with each other last season. But it should be very interesting to see. Of course, this is a track that Mercedes have never won at, so who knows, really, as... so maybe that streak could continue, judging from the first three position. But Evan Byrne is on pole, Chris Chatfield second, Franco Gamba in third, with Armar Carr in fourth, Jesus Perinen in fifth, with Kirishima De Rosa in sixth, Ray Patelli in seventh, Daniel Fraser, a very good qualifying for him, in eighth, Roman Quark in ninth, with George Roke, a disappointing 10th, really couldn't improve on his second lap. So a very exciting qualifying session, you have to say, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. It was a great qualifying session, especially Q3 where we had finally 2 runs and not one. We had more runs, but more with the conditions getting any worse. So yeah, it's also redemption for Byrne. Remember last season what happened to him in the race?
Yes, I do.
He got absolutely mugged by everybody.
Yes, indeed. But the question is, can he get his first win since 2012? That is going to be the question. The last time Byrne ever won a race was the 2012 Monaco Grand Prix. So, can he get, or was it, sorry, the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix, I should say, not the 2012 Monaco Grand Prix. What I'm on about, that was when his last podium happened. His last win came at the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix. Can he get his first win since then? That'll be another question. Well, all those answers will be answered tomorrow as well. But that has been it then for the qualifying session. A very entertaining session. Apart from the first 2 qualifyings, it all was worth it in the end for Q3. But I hope you have enjoyed it. We will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. BST for the 56-lap Chinese Grand Prix. Of course, we don't do the commentary for that because we allowed George to do that for the highlights. But until then, that has been it. I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching. I've been JW97. He's been Dennis Graff. And we will see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. BST for the 56-lap Chinese Grand Prix. Till then, take care.